What you're going to want to do here is look for key phrases, okay? One of the key phrases is when they ask the question. So when they say what, that's asking the question. What percent? We don't know what percent. So when we don't know something, that's the unknown. Does that make sense? Yeah. What do we let be the unknown all the time in equations? Your variable. Could be x, could be whatever you want it to be. Okay? So we write that down. Okay? When it says what percent, we're saying what number. Well, we don't know what number, so we let that be our variable. Okay? So we let it be x. That's fine. Okay? Now, the next phrases I'm looking for are going to be able to be identified with the words of and or is. Okay? So that kind of chunks our statement up. Of 45. That is another statement. But what does of mean? Multiplication. So as I'm reading this, it's what percent of 45? Well, that means I'm multiplying by 45. Okay? Now I get to another phrase that says is 20. What does is refer to? Equals. Equals what in this case? 20. So now we've got an equation that we can solve. Okay, how are x and 45 stuck together right now? Okay, so it's 45x, so it's multiplication, right? So if I divide both sides by 45, and divide both sides by 45 here, we get x to be, that's going to reduce 20 over 45, reduces to 4/9. Okay, now we want to put that, because it's asking us what percent, right? So I need it as a decimal, so it's 0.44 repeating. Okay, if I want it as a percent, how many places do I need to move that decimal? 2 spots, so it's 44.4 repeating percent. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so that was that question. Let's see if anything is different with the next question. The next question says, what percent? So is that the same thing here? Okay, so I'm going to use, maybe I use P here for my variable. Doesn't matter what you choose. Of 38. What does of 38 mean to me? So multiply by 38. Okay. Then is 72. What does is mean? Equals. So equals 72. Okay. How do I go about solving it? Divide both sides by 38. What?
1.89.
72 divided by 38. 1.89? Now, what does that mean, though?
189.
Okay, as a percent, it's 189%. Okay? Well, yeah, think about this. Instead of using 72 and 38, let's use 76 and 38. What would I get if I took 76 divided by 38? I'd get 2, right? So moving my decimal place 2 spots to the right, I would get 200%. So here's the idea. Let's say that I sell jeans for $38 today. Tomorrow I come to school and I'm going to sell jeans for $72. I just had a 200% increase in my price. That make sense? Okay. So when we see percent increases, and a 200% increase ultimately means that your price has doubled. Okay. So those are you always hear, if I give you 100% of my money, I can't give you 110% of my money because I don't have more than 100% of money, right? Does that make sense? Like you hear people say, I'll give 110% effort. That's erroneous. It doesn't make sense. You can only give 100% effort. But when we talk about percent change, maybe you can give 150% effort in comparison to your current effort. Does that make sense? Yeah. You can maybe if I think about 200% change, maybe I'm a turd at practice. If I work twice as hard, That's possible for me to do. Now I've got a 200% change in my effort. Okay? So those are things that are possible. Okay? 189% is possible. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. So the next question. Do the next one real quick. On your own. Got it?
Kaylee's weird.
Yeah, Kaylee's the weird one.
No, Kaylee, look, I heard you watching the video and you could hear her scream, and then Kaylee was like,
me got. Yeah! What's wrong? You gotta move it. What's wrong? 2.0.
75%. So we're looking at taking, so it says what percent, so there's our variable, right? So n of, what's of mean? Multiply, so n times 8 is means equals 6. So how do I isolate n then? All right, 6 divided by 8 then turns into 3/4. If I had 3/4, that's all right. No, so here's the thing. So the question is, do we have to change that 6/8 to like 3/4? Or do I even have to write it as 6/8 on my work? No, because it says what percent, right? So our overall goal is to get it at 75%. So if you don't write down like 6/8 or 3/4 to get to that point, that's fine. If you don't even write down 0.75 to get to that point, that's fine. We got to make sure that we answer our question in the format that they asked us. So percent is what we're looking for. So now, no, we haven't done one like the next one. But here's the thing. I want you to realize that the next one, even though it's worded differently, is no different than the first three. Go through it the same way that you did. Okay? Reading it, looking for key phrases, right? This says 32 is. So write that down. What does 32 is look like algebraically? 32 equal sign, right? That says 32 is, now it's going to be whatever we find next. So now it says 50%. 50%. What's 50% look like if I'm going to use algebra? 0.50. Or if you want to use just 0.5, that's fine. But now it says of what number? Okay, there's my x. Okay, or n, or whatever variable we want to use, right? Okay, but the word of means to multiply, right? So now we got that algebraic phrase says 32 is 50% of what number? I don't know what number. So now I'm going to multiply both sides by, well, think about it. Now here's the thing. Doesn't that say that? So I multiply both sides by 2. Or if you just want to ignore that completely, because you can, and say, well, these two things are stuck together through multiplication. So just divide by 0.5. Divide by 0.5, that's fine. But dividing by a half is the same thing as multiplying by 2. Okay? So 32 divided by 0.5 is 64. Okay? Right, so here's the thing then. Okay? When I look at this, they're asking 32 is half of, essentially, right? What number? When I say 50%, that's half, right? Okay? So you went the opposite direction. So here's the thing. I want to know if I'm right. So every one of these problems so far that we've done, you have, when you are finished, you have a percent, and you have two numbers that were either presented to you or that you found. Does that make sense? So when I look at that first example up there, we had 45, we had 20, and we had 44.4%, right? So we had two numbers and a percentage. Look at the second one. We had 38, 72, and 189%, right? So we had two numbers and a percentage. Look at the one we just did. 32 and 64. Are those two numbers? And it's 50%. Okay. Whenever you are done, take the numbers, the things that don't have percentages, even though the percentages incorporate numbers, right? But take the whole numbers and divide them and see if you get 50%. Always take the numbers and divide them to see if you get the percentage that is expressed either as what you found or what was already provided in the problem. Okay? So here my two numbers are 64 and 32, right? Now if I divide them, 64 over 32, what 64 over 32 gives me? 64 divided by 32 gives me 2, right? Well, that's not 50%. So now use the reciprocal then. Instead of going 64 divided by 32, go 32 divided by 64. Does that give me the 50%? Yes, it does. So when you're checking to see if you got the right answer, take the two numbers. So I'm going to call them whole numbers. They might not always be whole numbers, but the two numbers that do not have the percent symbol, divide them. See if they give you the percentage. Okay? If they don't, take the reciprocal and divide those. See if they give you the percentage. If they don't, then you don't have the right answer. If they do, you've got the right answer. Okay? So, let's do number 73 here. 10 is, so what does 10 is look like? 10 equals 20%. So 0.2, right? 20%, 0.2 of, what's of mean? Multiply. It says what number? What's my number? X. So now what do? Divide by 0.2. Divide by 0.2. What you get? X is 50. So now take 50 divided by 10. 50 divided by 10, well, that gives me 5. Take 10 divided by 50. That gives me 0.2. So I know, based on one of those fractions, that I'm able to generate my 20%, so I know I've done it correctly. Okay? Let's see here. Would you guys agree that the rest of these are the same? Yeah. Let's do...
Yeah, never ever again. Hey!
All right, so in your homework, the last question says something to the effect that a company reduced its employment by 30%. Okay? If 84 employees remain, how many did the company start with? This is the last question. Question number 20. So the company reduced its employment by 30%. If 84 employees remain, how many did the company start with? So what we want to do is we want to take that phrase and see if we can rewrite it as what number is blank percent of something, or this number is blank percent of what number. Okay, so try to rewrite it like the questions that we just did. Okay, so here's my question. Here's how I think we should do this. Okay, so the company reduced its employment by 30%. If 84 employees remain, this is a percentage of what we started with, right? Okay? So these are what remain. So what percentage, if I reduced by 30%, what percent remained?
84.
No. If I reduced by 30%, I took my word for it. So let's say, so let's say that you guys were my employees. Okay? And I came in and I said, guys, I can't pay every one of you. I've got to eliminate 30% of you. Okay? So If I eliminate 30%, that means I kept 70%. I think that's a better way of answering this question. Okay? So I'm keeping 70%. So do you guys agree that 84 is 74 or 70% of what I started with? Does that make sense to everybody? So this question is better if we can, it's easier to solve if we can write it this way. 84 employees is 70% of how many employees? Okay? That is a better way of wording this so we can set up some algebra. So, start off with what we just went through. If I have 84 employees is, would you guys agree that that means 84 equals 70% of, so 0.70 of means what? Multiply. How many employees? Is that just saying of what number? Isn't the number of employees or how many employees saying what number of employees? So that's analogous to these problems up here that said, I guess over here, that said what number? Okay? So I want what number of employees. So this becomes my x. Does that make sense? Can I take 84 and divide it by 0.7? What's that give me? Okay, so x is 120. Now, think about this. What is 30% of 120? Okay, that would work. Huh? Take what? What'd you say? Take 120 for me and multiply it by 0.3. That's 36. So that means if I'm going to reduce my staff by 30%, that means if I started with 120, I got to get rid of 36 of them, right? Take 120 minus 36. What do you get? You get the 84 that we kept. Does that make sense? Okay. So when they ask you to do like a reduction, okay, when they ask you to do a reduction of staff or reduction of money, whatever it may be, I think the best thing is to convert the question into not a reduction, but more of what did you keep, okay? And that'll be, I think, easier, okay? Do you guys have any, does this make a little bit of sense, maybe more than what did yesterday? Okay. Make a little bit more sense? Yeah. Make a little bit more sense?
Yeah.
Good. So, the plan for tomorrow might have, I just haven't decided yet. I'm kind of in limbo. But I want to see what you guys know about what we've been covering lately. Okay? So there's a potential. I'm not saying 100%, but I'm leaning, I'm at like 60% right now. 60% chance of quiz, okay? I want you to be aware of it. So it's not going to be a pop quiz. But there's potentially, well, that's rude.
No, it's not. No,
okay. Okay. Yeah, you just messed up. So, the remainder of the class, guys, I don't have anything more for you, okay? I would like you to keep, because the last class, they didn't get here because of the bullying thing, they didn't get here until about halfway through. So, I don't want to move on any further with you guys than I did with them. So I'm going to give you the second half of class like I gave them the first half. They had kind of a study hall or whatever. So go ahead and you can work on anything. I'd prefer if you've got some math to do, work on that math. No new homework, but the assignment that I gave yesterday is still open. Okay?